Hi, everybody. This is Maya Zahira with Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and we are now live in Zoom for our free class that we have every month, the first Tuesday of the month, for our members of our free Facebook group that's called Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group. So welcome, everybody. So we are in Zoom. And so those of you who are watching the replay, just letting you know that this is a Zoom class. There will be a little bit of chit chat as I interact with the other members. So this is not like a typical edited, polished YouTube video. I am going to be uploading this to YouTube. Instead, this is basically a courtesy that I do for the public, that when I upload, after we're done with this free Zoom class, I upload it to YouTube just as an extra courtesy. So YouTubers, please be kind with the fact that, this is not your standard YouTube video, but I hope that you enjoy the content. So let's get into the content. That is why you are here. Today's topic is what to do if you're under psychic attack. What to do if you're under psychic attack. So first of all, I find it very interesting that with some of our topics over the last few months, we've had a ton of people who have joined us live in the Zoom room. And right now in Zoom, we have a very, very, very small but mighty group of people on Zoom. And interestingly, there wasn't as much excitement about this topic, probably because it's so like basic 101. But here's the thing. I really encourage you, if you're watching this far, I encourage you to stick around because everybody needs to learn about this topic. Everybody does. In fact, let's get into this. So, as always, I am going to be looking at my notes. I have 2 pages of notes to teach you today. If you haven't done this already, I encourage you to get a pen and paper because I am going to be teaching you things. So if you can, jot down notes because we are going to be learning some valuable information. Some of it is really basic. Some of it is really vital. And some of it is literally your playbook for what to do if you're under psychic attack or you suspect that you might be. So first I want to talk about who this class is for. Well, this class is for pretty much everybody, but let me break it down a little bit. This class is for anybody who is under psychic attack, either present or perhaps you went through it in the past and you're trying to unravel and understand what you went through. So, or if you suspect, if you're not sure, you think maybe you might be experiencing some type of spiritual warfare, some type of attack, black magic, spells, entities, or whatever, you're suspecting that something is wrong. So this video is for you if that describes you. And then also this video is for you if you are a plan ahead, be prepared kind of person. Because I'm just going to tell you, as someone who has worked for years in the field of psychic protection, literally psychic attack, spiritual warfare issues can happen to anybody. And so it doesn't just happen to people who dabble with the dark arts. It literally happens all the time to like regular, good, everyday people who are not dabbling in dark stuff. So this video is for you if you are interested in preparing for the future, understanding what is possible so that you can nip it in the bud right away. Because I'm going to repeat this a few times here. This is a really important point. When a negative spiritual issue starts to ramp up, whatever it may be, the quicker that you can address it, the quicker, like the sooner that you address it, the quicker you can clear it. Okay. And the opposite is true. If you've been going through something for years or maybe your entire lifetime, then it does take longer to clear. But I've helped a lot of people. And when I say longer, I mean like months as opposed to days. So it's possible. Okay. But we want you to be able to clear these issues, to be aware enough so that if something starts to ramp up, you can clear it right away and you don't have to spend the months that it often takes to clear, a 10-year attack, which many people who find me, a lot of people who've come my way, have been dealing with some kind of spiritual warfare issue for 10 years, if not their entire life. And that's, so if that's you, then I totally get it. But if you're like, well, I don't think I'm under psychic attack, this video doesn't apply to me, or I don't dabble with the dark arts, I just focus positive energy, so this topic doesn't apply to me. No, you could not be more wrong. I hate to say it, but I've worked with so many light workers over the years who thought that they were safe and they weren't. And I'm sorry to burst that bubble. They thought they were safe because they were focusing on positive energy. And there's a false teaching, a popular false teaching out there that says that if you focus on love and light and stay high vibe, that you won't ever have anything like this happen. And I've had so many people come to me in major existential crisis because what they believed didn't turn out to be true. And we don't want that to be you. So it's better to be prepared. And I always joke, even in my personal life, I say that I'm a person who prepares for the worst and hopes for the best. And I think that's a good philosophy. Like, I've lived out in the country, out in nature various times in my life, and I always have extra food because you never know. Like, I've lived places where there's been flooding, blizzards that lasted a couple of weeks. I mean, stuff happens. It doesn't mean that you negatively manifested it to yourself. It's just stuff happens, and spiritual warfare happens to people. So they sometimes go into the wrong place at the wrong time, or they run into someone who's super evil and they get attacked for it. So stuff happens. Let's just be prepared. Okay. This class is also for you if you are simply curious and you want to learn about this topic. So if you're simply curious, that's great. I love curiosity. You don't have to be somebody. So those of you who are watching the replay, you don't have to be somebody who's gone through the major spiritual warfare in order to get something out of this video. Okay. So this is for everybody along that spectrum. People who've been through it, people who haven't but want to be prepared, and then people who are just curious. And who knows, maybe, those of you who are curious, you might have a friend who needs this advice in the future, and you can pass this on to them. Okay. And then also, this video class is for anybody who would like information on additional resources for psychic attack help. So if you are interested in what else that I have out there that's free or low cost or more investment, like if you just want to know what are the other resources besides this 60 to 90-minute video? What are the other resources, because you are looking for help and you just want to know, you want me to lay it out for you, then this is for you. Okay. If you're not interested in anything outside of this video, I want you to know that I am totally cool with that. I want to put free content out in the world so that everybody can receive assistance no matter what. And if you are someone who has watched every single one of my 100+ hours of free content and you have never bought anything, I love you. I love giving to you, and I'm totally cool with you enjoying all the content that's out there. But this is a good segue for who this video class is not for. This video class is not for, and I'm kind of speaking, you might guess, I'm kind of speaking to people that I've interacted with online. So I'll just speak briefly about this. This class is for the people that I already mentioned in this wonderful little bubble that we're going to create, the people who really want to be here. This class is not for the trolls. This class is not for the people who are demanding, rude, or who turn into a nasty troll when I mention outside resources like my book or my free Facebook group or other things like that. Like, you probably wouldn't be surprised because we all know that the online world is full of trolls. But I just want to speak for a moment to the trolls and say, bless you. But this class is not for you because I've had people kind of go mentally unbalanced and make nasty comments on my videos and say, how dare you mention your book or your free Facebook group or your other resources? And it's like me mentioning those things negates all the pages of free content that I've shared. And it just is super weird. Like, this class is not for those folks, okay? So if you're going to get angry for me mentioning other resources, and I will be mentioning other resources, I'm going to be, really mapping everything out for you today with information in the video and some outside resources. If that infuriates you, I love you and bye-bye. This is not for you. I say this with love. Bye. Also, number two, this video is not for the people who want an instant McDonald's drive-through quick fix. Okay? Instant McDonald's drive-through quick fix. This culture that we live in has emphasized this like instant gratification kind of thing. And I want to welcome our new people here today. I'll be interacting with you guys in just a second. We have this culture of instant gratification. And not only in our general culture, but in our spiritual culture. It's like people want to go to a 2-hour workshop and say that they're a master of whatever, get some certification. It's like you're an instant master. You went to a 3-hour workshop or whatever. And spirituality just doesn't work that way. Spiritual empowerment, spiritual protection, spiritual growth, it really takes time to work on yourself, work on your inner parts, work on what has made you vulnerable to the psychic attack in the first place. So it does take work. So if you're wanting like an instant pill, like, I had somebody a while back who purchased one of my videos, or it was an audio clearing session. It was a one audio clearing session. And I say this with love. This is just a really good example. She wanted that one single audio clearing session to clear out a lifetime of severe psychic attack. And it just does not work that way. The audio clearing session will help and I actually don't have that included in today's class, by the way, but I had it for sale. I usually put it on sale over the holidays. It's intended to help people who are having mild issues or with severe issues. It'll help you get your head above water a little bit, but it's not going to fix everything. And so we have to get out of that mindset, okay? Okay, so enough of that. Before we get deep into our lesson, I want to make sure that I talk about this again because it's super important. And we want to have the understanding that for the most part, and I say this with experience from working with people for many years in the area of psychic protection, for the most part, more recently, a psychic protection issue has arisen, the quicker you can clear it. And then contrasting that, the more complex and multi-layered and the longer a psychic protection issue has been going on, the longer it takes to clear it. But by longer, I don't mean that it's going to take you 10 years. Well, it might, but the people that I work with, that I mentor, that I help through the process, it takes them some months, not decades. Okay. So we have to get out of this idea that like this 90-minute class, 60 or 90-minute class, I don't know how long it's going to be, that this class alone will give you all the keys that you need to clear a lifetime of psychic attack. So I know I'm prefacing today's content with a lot of like all this basic information here. So bear with me on that. But this is just so important. There are a lot of people who misunderstand this. So we have to understand the reality that this is a step-by-step process. But like I said, I've worked with a lot of people over the years, and I know everybody who works through the process can get 100% permanently clear of any psychic protection issue. And I've worked with issues that were severe, like extremely severe, like people dealing with hundreds of entities attacking them, psychic attack from multiple witches or dark practitioners at the same time. I mean, stuff from extraterrestrials. I mean, every aspect I've worked with, and I say with full confidence, anybody can get clear of psychic attack. I've already spent so much time prefacing our lesson that I just want to take only a quick moment to mention this part for anybody who's new, who is just new to my world. So like, who am I? Who's this Maya person? And like, what do I know about psychic protection? Why should you listen to me? I'm going to refer you to my book, the Psychic Attack Sourcebook, and I'll refer back to that in just a minute. But that is my origin story of how I got started in this work. I had spent 20 plus years as what I call a feel-good spiritual practitioner, doing all the like lovely uplifting Reiki sessions and all the good stuff, which we do need that in our world today. But in 2016, I was catapulted into an additional spiritual awakening when I went through a major psychic attack by an entity that was attached to one of my colleagues, a practitioner. And I won't tell the whole story, but just to say that attack, I did think that I was going to die. It was a very severe attack. And obviously I got free from it. As a result of that attack, I had a major spiritual awakening in which I suddenly understood all sorts of things about psychic protection that I had not read about in any book or learned from any teachers. In fact, when I was trying to get help in 2016, I could not find the right information anywhere. I am a lifelong psychic and empath and medium as well. And so I am able to see entities and discern all sorts of things about what's going on spiritually. And that is very helpful in working with my clients so that we can like what I jokingly call CSI whiteboard. We can see a CSI whiteboard exactly what's happening with their psychic attack. I can remote view and see who's sending it and all that stuff. But after that attack, I realized I had actually been targeted since I was young. I'm going to leave it there. I'm just going to say that I didn't really acknowledge the previous attacks until I went through a major one, but I had been targeted in different ways throughout my whole life. And I've learned how to deal with that. And I work with people in my online academy, Spiritual Empowerment Academy. I work with people who have dealt with different levels of what I call spiritual targeting through psychic attack, entity attack, and more. So let's get into the direct body of our lesson here. I've got a whole page of notes on the real deep stuff here. So if you don't have a pen and paper yet, I do recommend that you get that if you can. And you'll want to take notes. And I think it'll make more sense if you are jotting things down. Okay. So, excuse me, to those of you who are here live, I just want to give a shout out and say hello. And I won't be reading your last names because this is going to be posted on YouTube publicly. But if you would like to say hi or share anything about anything you feel comfortable with sharing about why you're here, or if you feel that you have experienced psychic attack, then I encourage you to use the chat option. And then those of you who are watching the replay, feel free to comment and share anything you feel comfortable sharing. Have you ever had a situation where you suspected that you were under psychic attack? Here are a few of the many symptoms of psychic attack. So this is not an exhaustive list. These are just some symptoms that stood out to me that I wanted to share with you in this video. Have you felt like you were under psychic attack? Have you had nightmares? Nightmares can just be our own subconscious working through things, but nightmares can also be a signal that there could be a psychic attack trying to come through, and our subconscious is alerting us to that. The same thing is true with a feeling of anxiety, depression, or feeling of impending doom or fear. So these sometimes are normal feeling, well, normal. These are common feelings in a world that is quite uncertain. So let's just acknowledge that. But that those feelings can also be a symptom of psychic attack or an entity in your energy field. It can be your subconscious is letting you know that there is something foreign trying to get into your energy field or getting into your energy field. Okay, so, notice those feelings. Okay. Also, some other symptoms are vertigo, nausea. So, the vertigo and nausea are a sign that can occur when your personal vibration goes up really fast it goes up or down really fast. So if you have like a sudden spiritual awakening experience, you might feel kind of woozy or dizzy. But if an entity comes into your energy field, negative entity, or somebody is sending black magic your way, you also might feel vertigo or nausea. And this is where I've actually seen a lot of situations. I've personally observed a lot of situations when I've attended group spiritual events where the person like an attendee would say, "Oh, I don't feel well. I feel really unwell. I feel really dizzy. I feel like I'm going to throw up." And I can tell that there's not like spiritual hygiene has not been practiced in this space. It's just a cesspool of just muck, spiritual muck falling out of people. Okay. And so those who are sensitive are saying, "Oh, I don't feel well. I feel nauseous. I feel dizzy. I feel shaky." And the facilitator says, "Oh, that's a normal aspect of ascending into 5D reality." And I'm sitting there going, "Oh my God." If I say something, they don't believe me, because I've tried, believe me. Um, and so anyway, so it's commonly the vertigo and the dizziness, vertigo, nausea, shakiness. It's it can be positive sign or negative sign, but it's often assumed that it's a positive sign that, oh, you're having a spiritual awakening, when it's actually something negative. So we need to recognize, even if a spiritual teacher or leader that everybody trusts says, oh, this is a positive thing, listen to your own gut. Okay, listen to your own gut. It might not be a positive thing. It could be the start of a psychic attack. And my third book, The Dark Side of Spiritual Healers, The Dark Side of Spiritual Healers, gives a lot of examples of when people have attended spiritual events, that has been a catalyst opportunity, a catalyst for dark forces to ramp up a psychic attack where an attendee or the dark facilitator psychically attacks someone who's attending. And so one of the first signs is that vertigo, nausea, shakiness. So keep in mind, psychic attack can happen. It can occur from an individual, a dark person of some kind, but it can also happen. It can also originate from someone who you thought you could trust as a healer or spiritual guide. So, symptoms of psychic attack: exhaustion that has no reason. I mean, obviously, if you've had a long day, you might be exhausted, but like an ongoing exhaustion for no known reason could be that somebody is sucking energy, life force energy. Things like sleep paralysis, like when you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't move, you're paralyzed, and maybe you have a paranormal experience while you're laying there paralyzed, maybe having an experience with an entity. That's sleep paralysis. Feeling of weight on your chest, feelings of icy cold. You walk into a room and all of a sudden it's icy cold, even though it's an 85-degree day. Sudden insurgence of bad luck, where it's like all of a sudden everything is going wrong. Now, a lot of these things that I'm listing are things that could happen without a psychic attack. Like, people have astrological phases in their life where things are going good. Like, there's ebb and flow. Sometimes things are going good. Sometimes things are more challenging. And it is normal to have ebb and flow in your life. But this like sudden onset of a weird level of bad luck could be a sign of some type of psychic attack. Paranormal experiences like lights flashing in your home, or apparitions like being able to see mists or shadow beings or ghosts or entities. All of those are symptoms of psychic attack. So today in this class, we're going to be covering the basics of where to start. The basics of where to start. Everybody needs to start somewhere. We've got to start with the basics, and I'm going to give you the step-by-step of what to do. Okay? And I do want you to write these steps down, because those of you who are watching the replay, perhaps if you don't need it now, maybe later you might need this information. You might need these steps. So write down the steps and the resources and be sure to take notes. So I talked about some of the symptoms. Remember that these are not all of the possible symptoms. There are other symptoms, and I'll get into that in just a little bit. But let's talk about where are these symptoms coming from? Like, we're talking about psychic attack. Okay, where does a psychic attack come from? So let's define that before we go into what to do about it. Psychic attack can come from a couple of different places. The first is that a person, a living individual, can be sending you negative energy. They can be sending it in one of two ways. A person can be sending you negative energy through their thoughts and emotions. Perhaps they're extremely jealous. They are angry. They're filled with rage or resentment. Maybe, unfortunately, the person has a mental illness and their ideas about you are quite distorted and wrong, and they just have so much hate for you that, and emotions and thoughts are powerful. That energy that they're in this like psychopathic disturbed way that they are just obsessing about you and thinking about you all night long. If you are even sensitive at all emotionally, energetically, you're going to feel it, and it could have an effect that is a psychic attack, where it affects your energy field, it affects your sleep, it affects your health, it can affect your life, because it is literally like a bomb of negative energy coming into your life. Now, that kind of psychic attack from an individual, like an emotional, mental, hateful kind of psychic attack, it's not going to affect everyone the same. Some people are more sensitive than others. There are people who are just impervious energetically, like nothing like that is going to get through to them. And it's not that they've done any special spiritual practices, it's just that they're just not a spiritually sensitive person. And it doesn't mean they're good, bad, or otherwise. It's just some people are just not, like, all that kind of stuff just slides right off of them. It doesn't even phase them. But some of us are very sensitive. We're empaths. We can feel when someone is sending hatred our way. And we might not know that someone is sending hatred. We just know that we don't feel well, or that we feel vertigo or nausea, or that we can't sleep, or that we have nightmares, or like any of these symptoms, right? We're feeling it, and we're experiencing it as a psychic attack, because it is. It's a psychic attack that's emotional, mental, through hatred energy. Okay. So that's the first way that a psychic attack, or that's the first like origin of a psychic attack, where the psychic attack would be coming from. Number two origin of a psychic attack is from a living individual who on purpose engages in some flavor of black magic. There are many different religions and esoteric and magical paths that are practiced in the world. We're not going to take the time to list all of those, but just to acknowledge that there are individuals who decide that they are okay with casting a spell or doing a hex or a curse on someone and doing some form of ritual from their whatever tradition or hodgepodge of traditions that they practice, that they are intentionally using black magic to harm the targeted person. Now, a little subset to this is if the perpetrator is, if they are not very experienced, they might be what I call a dabbler, where they're just like finding different things in books from the library and from Amazon and kind of like piecemealing some things together. That type of psychic attack would be easier to clear because the person doesn't really know what the F they're doing. I did have somebody like 20 years ago who tried to do that nonsense to me, and I cleared it very once I realized what was happening, I cleared it very easily. But there's another subset to this, and this is where the perpetrator doesn't know how to do black magic, and they decide, or maybe they're only a dabbler, so they decide to hire a quote professional. Believe it or not, there are professionals, there are professional dark practitioners who, well, they might advertise that they do both light and dark, or they might, who knows how they might advertise, but whatever. There's a lot of different varieties out there. And at any rate, the practitioner will do the black magic, whatever flavor of black magic, on behalf of the client, and they will do the spell work in order to attack the targeted person. And so that results in a psychic attack. And some practitioners are very powerful, very, very powerful, whether they're professional paid practitioners or somebody who's not a professional, but they've been practicing for years and they know what they're doing. Or maybe they're like a third generation satanic witch. There's different kinds of witches, by the way, very tolerant of different practices, but there are certain flavors of certain paths that are on the darker end of the spectrum, where cursing, hexing, doing black magic, harming people is considered okay because they've decided that it's okay. And on a side note, I just want to say that I don't know about you. I got an itchy nose. I don't know about you, but for a long time, I had this belief that since I would never intentionally hurt someone, I would never dream of doing a curse on someone that I was mad at. I might feel hurt or mad, about something that happened with somebody, but I would never dream of cursing someone. I would never dream of doing black magic against someone. Like, I just would not do that to somebody. And for the longest time, I had this belief that because I wouldn't do that to someone, no one would do it to me. And that is not a good belief. It's not going to serve you, because the reality is, I do tend to attract a lot of people just through the law of attraction. I tend to attract people who are similar to me, who have a really good heart, who are wholesome and good, and would never curse somebody. And we have to remember that there are many people in the world who will happily and eagerly utilize the dark forces to hurt somebody that they've decided they're pissed off at. Instead of working on their own selves and working on releasing their anger in a healthy way, they will misuse spiritual energy. There are tons of people in the world, way more people than you might even imagine, who would do that sort of thing. So it happens. It happens. Okay. So far, for those of you who are here live, anything to comment on, anything that resonates with you, or anything that you want to add to what I've said, anything that you want to, counter what I've said. Sometimes I've left things out, or there's something really important that I should have said that other people will point out, and I really appreciate that. So feel free to chime in the comments. Okay, so I'm going to give a really quick let's take like a little breather before we get into these steps, because we've talked about the symptoms. And then, oh my goodness, okay, hang on a second. I left out something really important. So glad that I remembered, because I would not want to leave this out. So we'll go to that next part in a minute. We were defining where psychic attack comes from. We talked about living individuals who send nasty emotions, a living individual who purposely sends black magic. But then we have psychic attack that can come from, and notice I specified living individuals, because there can also be spiritual beings, entities that can psychically attack a person, or even what I call dark forces in general. There are some really negative, nasty spiritual forces out there. We don't have time today to go into the advanced information of, the many, many sub-levels of the spiritual dark forces, and, even things like directed energy weapons coming from human sources and from non-human sources that can be harming individuals and populations. There's like this whole spectrum that we could go into, but we do need to acknowledge that a psychic attack can come from one or more entities. And this is when an entity is in a person's energy field, or it is attached, usually via an energy cord, or it steps into the person, which we call possession or temporary possession or partial possession. And I do work with, probably right now, I'm kind of just guessing right now, about half of the people that I'm working with are dealing with the first kind of psychic attack that I mentioned, like being attacked by an unethical coven or different dark practitioners, dark shamans, etc. And then about the other half of the people that I'm working with currently are dealing with entity attachments. This is when a negative spiritual being hooks into the person and is messing with them. And in those cases, it also does create a lot of those same symptoms that I mentioned that describe psychic attack. So there are also other causes of or other sources of psychic attack, but we're not going to get into those today. But we've talked about the main two, which is where it's coming from a living individual or a spiritual being. Either way, that's where psychic attack generally comes from. And then we also have people who are just generally spiritually targeted individuals where they're just targeted by everything, like entities, every dark practitioner, because some individuals are like true light workers. They emanate so much light that they are threatening to the dark forces, to the negative forces. And so people that I refer to as spiritually targeted, and I was one of them, they end up being attacked from all directions. And so it gets pretty severe, but there is definitely hope for all of the levels of severity. Okay. So let's get into what I was going to mention a second ago. I want to give some basic information really quick. And then we're going to do our steps. We have three steps that we're going to get into for what to do if you're under psychic attack, with various sub-steps as well. Okay. So just real quick, if you didn't catch it earlier, my name's Maya Zahira. If you want further information, the best place to go is my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And there are free resources on the website. So again, I don't mind if you utilize every single tidbit of free resources everywhere. There's a YouTube channel, Psychic Protection Sanctuary YouTube channel. You can watch every single one of those videos on there. And there's also a free Facebook group. It's basically a holding place for our free class that we have every month. We don't, I focus most of my attention on my paid academy. And that's just what I've had to do to just be really intentional about my time. So I used to spend a whole lot of time giving free support in the free Facebook group. And I'm just, I think it was a year or two ago that I stopped doing that. I just have to focus on the academy, the paid academy members. But the free Facebook group does exist. It's called Psychic Protection Sanctuary. And we do have various discussion topics in there. I don't give free advice in there anymore, but it's just good to be in there, to just know that there are other people that are having these kinds of experiences. And if you're in there, then you get the announcements about these free classes. So if you want to join the Zoom class live and you can ask questions, then that's the way to do that. Otherwise, you just get access to the replay. I did mention my paid academy, and you can find that on my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And that is under the Work with Maya section. And then I'm going to be mentioning my books in this next section. So be aware of that. Though the books are a very low cost resource. Just FYI, anybody who has self-published, you know that self-publishing is a labor of love. Like, you make almost nothing off of the books. That is just like, you don't do it for the money or the fame. You do it to get the information out there so people will have a way of accessing the information. And so the 3 books that I've written so far, they are not very expensive. I just point this out because when I mention my books, people yell and get so angry. And it's like, dude, I'm making like $20 a month. Like, I'm paying for half of a gas tank off of these books. But I took the hours and hours and hours and years to write these books because I want you to have the information. And that's all that I'm coming from there. I just want you to have the information all in this organized way so that you can get the help that you need. Okay. So those are available on Amazon and Audible, and I will interweave the books for further resources in these next steps that we're going to go over. Okay. What to do if you're under psychic attack? We have 3 steps. I'm going to give you each step. I want to remind you, be prepared that I'm going to give you information in this video, but I'm also going to be outsourcing. I'm going to be telling you about where you can get more outside. Some of it's free, some of it's really cheap. Okay. Number 1, what to do if you're under psychic attack. Number 1, identify if you're under psychic attack. That sounds really like kind of obvious, like no brainer. But you have to get kind of a baseline understanding of what's happening before you go further. So identify if you're under attack. So there's 2 ways that I recommend that you identify. The first way is free. There's no cost, but it is outside of this video. There's a quiz that you can gain access to. And how you access the quiz is you go to my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com, and you do have to enter your email address so that my system can email you the quiz. So if you don't want to give your email address, that's okay, but we won't be able to email you that resource. So that's your choice to make. So you sign up for the email, and there's a variety of free gifts that will be sent to you over the course of some days. And the first gift that will come, the first email, is a quiz. Are you under psychic attack? Okay. And that quiz has, many more symptoms than what I described in this video, because I would be spending an hour talking about the symptoms. I have actually done classes on that in the past. There's a lot of possible symptoms of psychic attack. So it would be really good if you went through and did the quiz and marked off what you're experiencing right now so that you can evaluate, okay, am I just having a rough cycle in my life right now? Or could it be possible that there's something happening psychic attack wise? And then as an adjunct to that, I encourage you to ask yourself, is there anyone that I suspect might be sending this energy my way? Is there anybody? Usually when I ask people that, they will say, oh yeah, like it's usually someone they know. Oh yeah, I know, like so-and-so is a practitioner of the dark arts and they're super jealous of me. And it's a lot of times it's a family member or an ex of whoever you're with now. So in addition to doing the quiz, think about who could be sending this energy. Okay. So that's one way to obtain the quiz. Another way of obtaining the quiz is in my first book, Darkness Disguised as Light. And you would want to get the, well, you could get the paper copy, but you could, I guess, get the Kindle version if you wanted to like look at it and then write it out in your journal if you wanted to. But if you want to be able to write in the book, you can get the paper copy and fill out the quiz. It's actually in chapter 5, lesson 5. Okay, so you can either get it for free in your email if you sign up for my email, or you can find it in the book, or you can do both. It's totally up to you. So that's your first step, is you want to get clear information, like, am I under attack? What's happening? What are the symptoms? Because especially if you've never gone through this kind of thing before, it can be very confusing. I think back to when I was younger. So I'm 52 now. When I was younger, when I was in my 20s and my 30s, there were a couple of times when I think of like one time in particular when somebody who was a dabbler, dark practitioner sent me she did some spell work against me. And I didn't quite know what was happening at first. And if I had known, I would have nipped it in the bud, but it took a couple of weeks of weird stuff happening for me to figure it out. And it can be confusing when you don't really know what the symptoms are in the first place. So I do encourage you to get that baseline of understanding the symptoms, okay? And even if you're like, oh, Maya, I already know I'm under attack, there's no question about that. It still helps to see it on paper. And if there's anything that's not listed in the quiz that you know is a symptom, add that. Add that so you have a record so that you know what's happening. Okay. So that's number one step, what to do if you're under psychic attack. So that's like before you're fixing the issue, you got to get clear that you have an issue and what's going on. Okay. And then number two is the number two step is to get immediate relief. Now, I mentioned earlier I was going to give you 3 main steps, but some of these steps have sub-steps. So on your piece of paper, I want you to write down number 2, get immediate relief. And then I'm going to give you an A, B, C, because there are 3 things. You can do all 3 things, or you can just do one and see how that works for you. You're going to get immediate relief. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to fix a lifetime of issues, but you're going to get some relief where you can get your head above water. If it's a more recent psychic attack from someone who's not very experienced, if there's a kind of a minor psychic attack, you might be able to completely clear the attack just from one or all 3 of these sub steps. Okay. So you're going to get some relief so that you can do the deeper work, which is step number 3 coming next. Get immediate relief. Sub-step A is to burn frankincense resin. Burn frankincense resin. Now, if you can't burn frankincense resin because of your maybe allergies, sensitivities, or your rules of where you're renting, hold on, I'll give you an alternative. But okay, I need to be better about drinking water, you guys. Usually by the end of this, I start coughing because I haven't drank enough. So hold on for a second. Okay. There's a reason why the Catholic Church, they used to use, they don't do it as much. They should probably be doing it more now, but there's a reason why the Catholic Church has traditionally used frankincense smoke, for burned frankincense resin, for exorcism. When I was young, they used to use it in church. They would come around and swing it's called a censer, and the smoke would billow out. I haven't seen them do that in a very long time, but at any rate, There's a reason why they do that. It's because it works. It's very, very effective in clearing out dark, negative energy, black magic, curses, and entities. So it's going to give you immediate relief. You will have to keep repeating it. So just burning frankincense once isn't going to magically, remember, this is not like a magic pill or McDonald's quickie drive-through. You will need to burn frankincense daily, or at the minimal amount every 3 days, because the issue will try to come back. Okay. But if and the smoke is what is powerful. You want to, it's called a smoke cleanse for a reason. You want to get that smoke in the area. Be aware of babies, children, animals, pets, especially birds. You don't want them in that. You want to fully air it out before they come back into the area, because it might not be good for them. What else do I want to say? So it's actually the plant medicine. It's the plant, it's the frequency of the plant that drives out the black magic and the entities. Okay, so we want the smoke. We don't, there are some people who will like put a little bit of the resin on like a candle burner, and it emits like a really lovely fragrance. That's not really going to be strong enough. It's not as strong as the smoke cleanse, but if that's all you can do, then it's better than nothing. What else? Oh, so you might be someone who knows all about burning frankincense, or you might be somebody who's like, burn frankincense, what's that? How do I do that? Is that like sage? What? So I'm going to refer you to a video, so I'm not reinventing the wheel here. There's a video that I created like I think last year or the year before, and it's called How to Burn Frankincense. So write that down in your notes. How to Burn Frankincense. That's the name of the video. So if you're here live and you want to go find that right away, right after this is done, you can go to Psychic Protection Sanctuary YouTube channel and type that into my channel, How to Burn Frankincense, Maya Zahira. And then you'll find the video that I've done on that. But for those of you watching the replay on YouTube, I will be sure to include the direct link to that right at the top of the video description. So you'll be able to find that. How to burn frankincense. Okay. If you can't burn frankincense, then you could do create an essential oil spray with frankincense, or put it in a diffuser, an essential oil diffuser. Put frankincense, good quality, not the fake. The cheap stuff is actually fake, so you're not going to get any of the plant medicine. But use good quality frankincense essential oil in a diffuser. It's not as strong as the smoke cleansing. If you have, let's just say, if you have a demon issue, burning some or diffusing some essential oils is not going to be strong enough, but it will help to weaken the negative energy. So it's better to do it than not at all. Okay. I have a wonderful friend whose husband doesn't really like the smell of the smoke. And so what she does is when he I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, because it's a positive story. When he goes out of town, she takes the opportunity to do a really thorough smoke cleanse, and then she airs it out really good so that when he comes home, the smoke doesn't bother his lungs. So I'm just using that as an example that if you have a really major issue and you kind of need the smoke cleansing, maybe just be creative on how to get that done. But if you truly can't do the smoke cleansing, then using an essential oil spray or the diffuser method is better than nothing. But just remember, it's not as powerful. I'm not going to give you my essential oil protection spray recipes here in the free content. That is something that's available for my students in my paid academy. So that's just something you could have access to if you chose to, or you can just come up with your own recipe if you're already into essential oils. That is in. So there are also instructions. In addition to the free video that I just mentioned, How to Burn Frankincense, there are written instructions in my first book, Darkness Disguised as Light. Chapter 10, Lesson 10 has the instructions written out for you on how to burn frankincense and other types of resins for psychic protection. Okay, so that is the first way that you can get immediate relief. Immediate relief to get your head above water, so to like at least lessen the attacks so you're not being blasted so hard. And again, like I mentioned earlier, if it's a mild situation that you're dealing with, just burning frankincense and doing some prayers might be enough to clear it out completely, because frankincense is powerful. Okay, so your step number 2, get immediate relief with these steps. So step A, burning frankincense daily. Sub-step B is do a reversal candle. I'm not going to go into the details of reversal candle because I already gave you a lot of details about the frankincense, but there is also a written instructions in Darkness Disguised as Light in chapter 11, lesson 11. And the reversal candle comes, it's a very basic version that I use that comes from the hoodoo tradition. And but really every spiritual tradition out there, you know, most spiritual traditions use candles in some way, shape, or form. So this is a very basic candle method. And I emphasize basic because this is accessible even to people who don't have a great deal of occult or esoteric knowledge. You don't have to be a master practitioner of whatever to do this method. You can learn it in 10 minutes and practice it. The reversal candle is really, really good and straightforward and easy for reversing psychic attack being sent your way. So if there is somebody blasting you with a curse, black magic, etc., you can literally reverse that energy back to them. Or if you don't want to reverse it, you can send it to Divine Creator to be recycled into love, however you want to do it. But it's going to get pulled off of you, pulled away from you. And it's such an amazing and wonderful method. And it's so easy and straightforward. And yes, there are complex versions of doing the reversal candle where you've got a lot of different supplies and a lot of steps, but you don't have to use all those complex steps unless that's your style. If that's how you roll and that's what works for you, then great. But you can just do the simple method, and that works for a lot of people. So reversal candle is going to give you immediate relief from the severity of what's going on. And then sub-step C is to take salt baths. If you don't have a bathtub, get creative. And if it's the summertime, get one of those children's kiddie pools that are plastic and take a salt bath in that. Put some salt in some water from your hose and do that. Or I have had a lot of people who would take a bucket of salt water and pour it over themselves in the shower. So whatever you can, or salt scrub, just like scrub your whole body. Be careful with your eyes. Scrub your whole body with salt. Salt disempowers negative spiritual energy. It literally cleans your aura. Salt cleans your aura. So salt is really good, a salt bath. If you've been exposed to some negative, nasty energy, let's say you went to a weird spiritual event where you came home and you were like, I don't know what was there, but I don't feel right. And there's some stuff that's trying to hook into your energy field. Maybe an entity, maybe energy cords from the dark practitioner who pretended to be a light worker, whatever. But if you go take a salt bath right then, all that stuff that was trying to hook in won't be able to hook in, and you have warded it off before it even had a chance to take hold. Okay, so this is an example of, like, if you are fully informed about psychic attack, then you can ward issues off before they even start. Now, a lot of people find me, long after a situation has started. So if a situation's been going on for a while, then what you do is you take regular salt baths. That could be, it's up to you. It could be every day, could be every 3 days, minimum of once a week. If you're dealing with a psychic attack, you want to keep cleansing your aura. And then the frankincense burning, the smoke cleanse, is also a good way to cleanse your aura, and it also cleanses your space. And then the reversal candle reverses psychic attack, reverses black magic, reverses spells. Okay. Keep in mind the reversal candle can still be good even if you're dealing with an entity. So it's not just for when a person is sending you negative energy. Chapter lesson 11 in Darkness Disguised as Light describes which kind of candle to use if you're dealing with an entity versus a standard psychic attack. So do we have any questions so far? So we've talked about the first 2 steps. Identify if you're under psychic attack. Step number 2, get some immediate relief with some of these 3 sub-steps. So does all that make sense so far? So if you're, once again, if you're dealing with a mild attack, if you use those 3 sub-steps, you're probably going to fully clear it. And then you won't have to deal with it anymore. But if you are dealing with multiple layers, that or a long-standing issue, you're probably going to need more. And or even if you're dealing with a mild issue that clears with those 3 sub-steps, there was something that made you vulnerable in the first place. So you're probably still going to need to think about step number 3, which we're going to go into next. Step number 3 is more complicated. And so because of that, because it's more complicated, I think you'll learn step number 3 and understand it and comprehend it better if you read it in my book. You don't have to read it in my book, but I just feel like what I'm going to go over with you right now, it's a lot right there, right in one package here. So if you don't catch it all, then I heard something. It was a kid outside playing, I think. Then I recommend going straight to the final chapter in my second book, the Psychic Attack Sourcebook. The final chapter of the Psychic Attack Sourcebook gives all of the steps of what I call my 5-part approach to psychic protection. Maya's 5-part approach to psychic protection. Okay. There's 5 steps, there's 5 parts that I've discovered over the years in working with people who are dealing with any level of psychic protection issues. And some of these might sound really basic, but it's all very important. And what I've noticed, the people that I work with in my program, my academy, the people who are dealing with really serious issues, is that across the board, they have to work on all of these aspects, all of these 5 parts in order to get fully free. One of the steps is to do daily clearing, like burning frankincense, taking salt baths, doing your reversal candle. But a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that doing the daily spiritual clearing is what's going to fix you. But the daily spiritual clearing, what that does is it gives you some relief and it helps, but it doesn't permanently 100% fix the issue forever and ever and ever. Okay, so once I go through step 3, this will make more sense. This is a 5-part approach. So now I'm going to go into the 5-part approach to psychic protection. These are necessary steps that you will have to take if you want to resolve this psychic protection issue. And if you're having a psychic protection emergency or issue, chances are, even if you resolve it with frankincense, if you don't work on these 5 steps that I'm going to talk about, the chances are pretty high that you're going to have some other type of psychic protection emergency again at some point in the future, because we have to address all these root causes. Okay, 5-part approach. Number 1 is grounding. This is basic 101, energy basics 101. You've got to be grounded. And by grounded, I mean you've got to be connected with earth energy and you have to be embodied. You have to be present in your body. I know that living on this planet is hard, but I'm here to tell you that I've seen over and over again that the people who have partially exited their body because they don't really feel comfortable being here because it's hard, the people who are like not consciously in their body or their energy is kind of off over here, those are the people who are not present and home enough to recognize when a psychic attack or an entity is taking hold. So being ungrounded, being unembodied leaves you vulnerable and much more likely to have psychic protection issues. And if you're currently having a psychic protection issue, you've got to ground. It's like you have to anchor in that grounding rod, your root chakra, sending a connection down into the earth so that you can get yourself clear. Because if you're untethered and you're just like floating, if you're one of the spiritual seekers who's like the float in outer space spiritual seeker, it's going to be really hard to get clear of entities or negative energy, black magic, etc. Because you've got to be plugged in. Okay. Again, it's spiritual energy 101. It sounds really simple, but it's necessary. It is required, necessary for getting free of psychic protection issues. Number 2 step is learning and applying energy boundaries and filters. Energy boundaries. So that means energy boundaries around the boundaries of your aura, around your personal energy field, so that it's harder for negative energies to come in and glom onto you. So it's harder for an energy vampire to hook an energy cord right into you. So that it's harder for an entity to hook into you. So that it's harder for a negative practitioner to send non-consensual telepathy into your field. That happens a lot. That it's shocking, but it happens a lot. So the stronger your energy boundaries are, the better. Okay. We actually don't have time. We're almost at 90 minutes now. We don't have time to go through my whole process of daily protocol of how to establish your energy boundaries. There's a basic version of it in the Psychic Attack Sourcebook in the final chapter, but I go into a lot more detail in my academy. Okay. you can find your own ways. You can use your intuition. If you don't want to buy my book, that's fine. If you don't want to sign up for the Academy, that's fine. But I just want you to know we do go into it in depth. You learn a lot about how to establish your energy boundaries. Okay. But you can find your own way to do it if you want to. One thing I will say is this popularized fluffy belief of just visualize white light around your aura and that will protect you. That is not strong enough. And many of you may have already figured that out. That like, why did that not work? It didn't work. I still got attacked. Well, there's nothing wrong with you. That method actually doesn't work. Just visualize white light or just call your angels. I love angels, but just these like basic fluffy methods are not enough. Okay. So you will need to learn some method of powerful energy boundaries. However, whatever way that you learn, you will need to learn some energy boundaries. Step number 3 is to connect with your spiritual allies. These could be your guardian angels. This could be Mother Gaia. This could be divine source, God, goddess, creator. This could be connecting with your divine self. Some people choose to not work with spiritual allies because there are actually a lot of trickster beings out there. And I'm very supportive of that choice. It's better to err on the side of caution. I do have videos where I talk about false light. There is a very big issue with false light entities, a false light agenda. So definitely be discerning with any spiritual beings that you choose to work with. Less is more. It's better to work with fewer than a whole entourage that are tricksters, that are imposters, and that are not who they say they are. That said, I personally, having had the history of being a spiritually targeted individual, even though I did reduce all of my spirit guides and spiritual allies when I went through the 2016 attack, I was attacked by a false light entity, an entity that was pretending to be, it was a very dark entity pretending to be of the light. When I learned, so that was my rude awakening to false light entities. So at that time, I reduced my team down to almost nothing. But then over time, as I learned to trust my discernment, I then began working with spiritual allies again, those that I had fully vetted. I personally, like I was saying, having been a spiritually targeted individual in the past, I felt that it was useful to have allies on my side helping me with my protection. Now, I want to be clear that your protection and my protection, it is ultimately up to me. It is ultimately up to you to protect yourself. But it's very helpful to have some friends who've got your back. So that is why I work with spiritual allies. I find that to be very helpful. If it resonates with you, great. Otherwise, you can work with, like I said before, maybe your spirit, your soul, your divine self, your divine spark, your higher self, whatever aspect of that you want to work with. That would also be considered your spiritual allies. Step number 4 of 5 is spiritual cleansing. So remember, we're talking about my 5-part approach to psychic protection: grounding, learning and applying energy boundaries, connecting with your spiritual allies. So you have those on your team helping you. Step number 4 is spiritual cleansing. So we already went through 3 basic methods for spiritual cleansing. 3 examples are frankincense, whether smoke cleanse or essential oil, reversal candle, salt baths. But there are many methods for spiritual cleansing. And in fact, I think I forgot to mention earlier that there is information in the Psychic Attack Sourcebook in the final chapter going into details of some different things that you could do to use salt for protection, in addition to just salt baths. So those are some examples of spiritual cleansing. Again, we don't have time to go through every aspect of spiritual cleansing, but this gives you an idea that this is one of the aspects that's important. Like if we were to draw a wheel, this is one of the parts of the wheel. Is spiritual cleansing is just one piece. A lot of people think that that's the only piece, like spiritual cleansing, that is what you do for psychic protection and for clearing a psychic attack. But no, you've got to have grounding. You've got to have energy boundaries. You've got to connect with your spiritual allies or your own soul. You've got, and then also spiritual cleansing. So that's just one of the steps. Number 5, final step of the 5-part approach is really, really important. And this step is usually employed after you've gotten your head above water a little bit. Once you're not so overwhelmed with the attack, you can start to address root causes. You can start to think of and work on clearing and identifying any vulnerabilities, anything that made you vulnerable to the psychic attack or the dark forces in the first place. So there's a really great description in my first book, Darkness Disguises Light. There's a whole section on just a huge list of what can make you more vulnerable to experiencing a psychic attack. So we don't have time to go into that whole list, but here are a few things that are common. Is that if you have experienced paranormal situations in the past, or here's an example. When someone comes to me and they say that like 2 years ago, this weird thing happened and they started to experience some negative spiritual interference of whatever kind, psychic attack or entity or whatever. As we talk further, we find out that actually when they were young, they had lived in a house that was haunted, or there was someone in their family or in their circle of influence when they were young who was a practitioner of the dark arts, or there's just like some kind of connection, usually that has started in the past. And then that it could be childhood, usually it's childhood, but it's sometime in the past. And then that makes you more vulnerable to it happening again, to some flavor of it happening again. So that's one of the things that can make you vulnerable. So if you have accidentally been exposed to an infested person or location, then in the past, that can make you vulnerable even in the future, right? Things like addiction, any type of addiction, if you are engaging in that addiction, and this is not judgment, this is just a truth. If you are engaging in the addiction, then it does change your energy field and it makes you an easier target for psychic attack. And also entities really love to get in the energy fields of active addiction. If somebody is in recovery, that's there are still, if somebody is in addiction recovery, there are still some vulnerabilities there, but it's less so. Another root cause would be if you did dabble with the dark arts. Sometimes this is like somebody will say, well, when I was a teenager, I did some dabbling and, I don't know what I was thinking, but I made a vow to the dark forces or to Satan. Like, I don't know, we were just having fun. But then now, later in life, some weird stuff is happening. So it's really good to identify that. There's no shame in this. This is about identifying what some of these vulnerabilities are so that you can obtain the tools to clear it. You might not know how to clear that, but I do. So I can help you with that. So it's very popular nowadays to channel spirits. I wish it was not so popular, but I can't force everyone to do what I want them to do. But I'm just telling you, all these people who are channeling spirits, they're ending up really infested with stuff because there's a lot of false light coming through. That's all that I will say about that. But that does make someone more vulnerable to psychic attack. And then lastly, this is surprising to some people, but even unhealed emotional or physical trauma within you, even unhealed trauma within you can make you vulnerable to psychic attack, because psychic attack energy and practitioners of the dark arts and entities across the board, they're all very lazy. Okay, they just are. They're lazy and they're opportunistic, and they want to go for anybody who's vulnerable. So if they know that someone has an unhealed emotional wound about XYZ, then that's where the attack is going to hook into. Okay. So those emotional vulnerabilities, that's why it's really important when people are clearing out a psychic attack, a spiritual warfare issue, they're doing the spiritual cleansing techniques, but then they're also looking at aspects of the mental warfare, the mind games that are played, and where people's emotional vulnerabilities are preyed upon, and we work on healing whatever those unhealed emotional wounds, those like core wounds are, so that the dark forces won't have any of that to grab onto. And lastly, one of the other root causes would be ancestral curses or curses from past lives as well. So curses that that took place before the beginning of this incarnation. So it's important to go in and clear those. That's a lot of work to do, clearing ancestral curses, but we actually have a huge library of clearing sessions in the Spiritual Empowerment Academy, the paid program. We have a huge library of lots of different topics of clearing sessions. It's beyond what I can offer in the free content. I do have I'm trying to think. I actually, I've got a couple of clearing sessions here and there that I offer either for really cheap or free. Oh yeah, when I was trying to think what I have. When you first join my email list, once you get further down the emails, there's an email that goes out where you can get a really discounted version of one of my clearing sessions, and that's really powerful. So you can have access to that, but the whole huge library, that's for the Academy members. So do we have any questions or comments before we close up for today? Let's recap. These are the 3 steps. What to do if you're under psychic attack. Number 1, identify if you're under attack and what the symptoms are and who it might be coming from. Who or what it might be coming from. Number 2, get immediate relief with some of those the 3 spiritual cleansing methods that I mentioned. Step number 3 is to work through the 5-part approach that we just went through. And like I mentioned, that 5-part approach, there's a lot there. It's kind of hard to grasp when I'm going through it verbally. So if you're more of a visual person, you can go through it in the book, the Psychic Attack Sourcebook, or you can just listen to this video again and see if it sinks and take more notes. Either way is fine with me. That section that I just went over about the 5-part approach is in the final chapter of the Psychic Attack Sourcebook. Okay, so a couple things that you want to be aware of as you are working on clearing. Sometimes when you engage in some clearing that is really going to work, sometimes when you engage in clearing that really is working or is really going to work, there can be backlash or retaliation. So there can be some pushback, and that is normal. And so what you do is you keep going, you keep pushing forward. So let's just say you start to burn frankincense. A lot of times people will have relief from that, but sometimes the attack will ramp up at first and people go, oh no, I must be doing it wrong, or maybe this is making it worse. But actually, in those cases, it's ramping up because it's working. Let's say there's an entity, for example. The entity doesn't like the frankincense smoke. The entity doesn't want it to be cleared. The entity wants you to stop doing the thing, whatever the method that you're using. And so it's going to ramp up the attack. It's a manipulation ploy to get you to stop. So what I usually tell people is you keep forging forward, and then that retaliation, that ramping up of retaliation, it backs off. Every situation is different though. So if anything gets to be too much, you just do less. Back it off. Just be aware that this backlash and retaliation is it's not unusual, and it's more of a psychological manipulation. It's a psychological manipulation to get you to back off so that you won't do what's going to work. So remember that. It's a mind game. Okay. So the steady, ongoing approach is what works best. Steady, ongoing. Just doing something once, throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, that never works. Okay. I'm just telling you, it never works. It does not work. You've got to have a steady, ongoing approach. I've had people say, well, I tried burning frankincense and it didn't work. And I'm like, yeah, so you did it once and then you gave up. Again, I've worked with so many people over the years, and when people were steady and they did whatever their clearing methods and their approach was, they were doing it all steady, they were successful in clearing their issue. If they did it once and said, this doesn't work, nothing works, it's like, okay, well, if you believe that, then that's true. Like, you've got to have a steady approach. Everybody who takes a steady approach succeeds in this. I've seen so many people succeed. So remember, steady, ongoing approach. And the longer you've had an issue, the longer it takes to clear it. But by long, I don't mean decades. I mean a few months rather than a day. So be realistic. If you think that you're going to clear a lifelong issue in a week, that's probably not going to happen. So once you recognize like the time frames and what you need to do, think of it as creating daily habits. It's almost comparable to if someone had a serious illness. They're not going for like 10 years, they had a serious illness. Yes, immediate miracles do happen with illness and with psychic protection issues, but most of the time, it takes a while for the person to rebuild their body. And they have to be careful to not be in environments where there's a lot of germs because their immune system is still rebuilding, for example. So the same would be true when you're recovering from a psychic attack. You don't want to go into questionable spiritual environments when you're still trying to clear out your attack and you're still recovering. You want to protect yourself. You want to rebuild your system. And so it takes a bit of time, right? It takes a bit of time. So the final thing that I will say is just a reminder to be realistic in your expectations. Take this information that I've shared with you today as your foundation. Take it as your foundation and then you can go whatever direction. You can use whatever resources out there that you want to add to this, or you can deepen your resources by working with me. And honestly, when people have really complex spiritual warfare issues, when they have really complex issues, it really, really does help to have mentoring, to have somebody who can tune in psychically and help you figure out what the heck is going on and what are the best methods for clearing. And so that's what I'm here for, if that's what you need and you decide to go that direction. So you've got a lot of layers of choices here. You have all this free content in this video to help get you started. And then I've referred you out to some other resources, books, and etc. And then if you want ongoing mentoring to really resolve a complex multi-layered issue, then that's what I'm here for with the Spiritual Empowerment Academy, with the paid program. And you can find information about that at psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. So I think we're all done for today. I don't see any questions. And I think I've gone over everything. Just making sure I haven't forgotten anything. So next month, our topic is, I'm trying to remember the exact, we actually have some really interesting topics coming up. Today's topic was like really basic 101. Excuse me. Which is important. We all need the basics. And I want to tell you what's coming up next. I don't know where I'm not finding it. I'm almost there. Okay, next class is Psychic Attack and Spiritual Warfare via Astral Travel. And here's my alternate title, How Astral Travel is Used for Spiritual Warfare and Psychic Attack. And the month after that, the free class is going to be about fairies and elementals and whether they are safe or not safe. And I'm going to hold off in telling you what I think on that and let you catch that class when it comes out. So I want to thank you so much for being here. And if there's any way that I can help connect you with resources, please do let me know. And I will be sure to upload. So this video is going to get uploaded to the Facebook group and the YouTube channel tomorrow. Okay, it's going to be uploaded tomorrow. And I will be sure to include a link to that video that I mentioned, how to burn frankincense, so that if you don't want to buy any of my books, you can have access to that video. And that's going to give you some immediate relief, is just the burning frankincense. Okay, because I want to make sure I'm accommodating people at all different levels. Some people want to only engage with the free stuff, which is totally cool. Excuse me. I'm starting to lose my voice here at the end. That always happens. So I will make sure to find that video and I will include it for you guys so that you have it. And let me read a comment. Okay. Crystal says, thank you so much. I've been through something quite awful for about 4 years now. It started with someone being able to astral travel to me and it got hijacked. I may reach out for mentoring. Take care. Yeah, I look forward to hearing from you, and definitely catch next month's class because it sounds like that topic is relevant for what you have going on for sure. And Rose says, great as always, Maya. Thank you. Thanks so much, everybody, for being here. I'm going to go ahead and log off because I have somewhere else I need to be online. But as always, I'm sending you all my love, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.